Commodity Fetishism. Today, we will talk about Karl Marx's Capital, and we will talk about the last part of the first chapter, which is entitled as Commodity Fetishism. Commodity Fetishism is Marx's application of commodity analysis to society. Marx asks a question related to a certain mysterious nature of the commodity, with the fact that the commodity appears to the participants of capitalist society as something mysterious, magical, as some kind of sensually super-sensible thing. Marx uses the word fetishism in an ancient context. In the old days of colonialism, the term fetish was widely used to describe inanimate objects with fantastic powers in indigenous cultures. Naturally, the understanding of fetishism in capitalism is secular, not religious. Nevertheless, the basic idea remains unchanged. Fetishism as a commodity occult. A civilized European can laugh as much as he likes at some conventional savages who worship some kind of fetishes. For example, they worship stone idols. But in his attitude to the world of goods, in his attitude to his own economic environment, this civilized European behaves exactly the same way. At the same time, it should be noted that commodity fetishism arises unconsciously. No one intentionally does it. As Marx puts it, they don't know it, but they do it. And this unconscious process, within the framework of which commodity fetishism arises, develops only in a situation where commodity production becomes dominant in society, when the vast majority of labor products are manufactured initially as goods. But since they saw no alternatives to capitalist society, or rather they did not perceive it as something historical, but perceived it as something eternal and unchangeable, they could not penetrate this mystery. Marx does the same in Capital, and consistently reveals it in a wide variety of economic categories. It should be noted that in the 20th century, and even today, commodity fetishism has acquired simply threatening proportions, surpassing even what it was at the time of Marx.
Preface to industrial relations. At first, production was for own consumption. Then exchange arose, and only later full-fledged commodity production. With the growth of the human population, communities, tribes, cities, and empires appear, the operation of exchanging goods gradually began, and people realized that it was more convenient this way. They did not need to produce everything themselves. It was easier to exchange manufactured things for something else, like services or the same goods. Marx even has a position that commodity circulation precedes commodity production. That is, at first, people did not produce goods but products for themselves, and then they suddenly met and the exchange operation began. Universal goods have appeared for the convenience of exchange. What were the first universal goods? Proto-money. A universal product is a product that everyone recognizes as valuable, easy to exchange, convenient to store, can be divided, and does not deteriorate quickly. 1. Cattle, one of the ancient universal equivalents. Cows, sheep, goats, they were used as a measure of wealth. The word pecus, cattle, is derived from the Latin pecunia, money. Cattle were valuable because they provided food, multiplied, and were an indicator of status. 2. Salt, a very important commodity in ancient times. It was used to store food, a scarce resource, easily shared. The word salary is derived from the word salarium, payment with salt. 3. Grain, wheat, barley. In Mesopotamia, it served as a measure of calculation. It was used in temples and palaces. The negative is that it deteriorated over time. 4. Shells, cowries, a very common ancient equivalent of value, used in Africa, Asia, China. Lightweight, portable, it's hard to fake. 5. Fabrics and furs. In the northern regions, fur, and others, fabric, linen. Their value was practical and status-based. 6. Metals, up to coins. First, copper, bronze, iron, later, silver, gold.
Metal became an ideal universal commodity because it is durable, divisible, rare, and concentrates high value in a small volume. And already the first coins appeared on the basis of metal. But how did the services come about? When the division of labor took place, one began to hunt better, another to make tools, the third to heal, the fourth to build. There was an exchange of not only things but also actions. For example, a blacksmith repaired weapons, a builder built a dwelling, a shaman treated or performed a ritual, a warrior defended. At first, it was an exchange of goods for goods, a service for a good, and a service for a service. Later, services began to be paid with universal equivalents, proto-money. With the development of the human mind and science, the Industrial Revolution proceeds. Today, the economy has become multifaceted, with an extensive supply of goods and services, with the development of technology, the internet, transport, and so on. Globalization has become possible. And sectors of the economy appeared. Hierarchy of economic sectors. Sector 1. Extraction of natural resources, agriculture, forestry, fishing. Sector 2. Manufacturing, processing of raw materials, construction. Sector 3. Service sector, transport, trade, finance, tourism, healthcare. Sector 4. Knowledge economy, information technology, IT, scientific research, education, management. Sector 5. Planned economy. It operates on the basis of centralized or conscious planning, communism. The chronology. First, subsistence farming, exchange of goods, universal equivalent, money. Then, commodity production, services, science, technology, planned economy, communism as an extra-class society. Problems with commodity fetishism. The paradox is when the price is more important than the product itself. There is nothing mysterious about the quality of use value in a product. It can only be a commodity when it is produced for exchange, and these products which are exchanged for one another become commodities. When commodity production becomes universal, everything turns into a commodity, and then the one who sells the commodity for exchange is not a consumer value for him. He is not going to use his commodity. For example, do you really think that the sausage that we are selling now, the people who produce it, I mean the capitalists, will eat it? They know what it's made of. There's no way they're going to eat it. There's nothing meaty there. This means that a capitalist who produces a commodity seeks to create value, not the very benefit of the commodity. Everything is for sale, even an opinion. In a system where everything is a commodity, everything is bought and sold. Then we see that newspapers are being bought, magazines, editorial offices, television, screenwriters, artists, etc. are being bought, and the media begins to serve the interests of capitalists, corporations, banks. Human morality is also lost here when love, honor, conscience, anything can be sold. The numbers game under capitalism. A product is just an item that satisfies some kind of need. There's nothing supernatural about it. People change the nature around them, adjusting objects of nature to their needs. The mystery of a commodity lies in its very commodity form, in the form of value. After all, the product that we discover contains one property that has nothing to do with the material properties of the object, namely the very value. At the same time, the solution to this riddle is that value is not a property of an object. Value is a social relation. But then the second question arises: how is it that what is a social relation is perceived by the participants of capitalist society as a property inherent in the object itself? After all, we can decompose the same gold into atoms, and we won't find a single atom of value there. Such a mechanism in the capitalist economy is the market, namely the market of goods. And for the first time, contact between these private producers is taking place on the market. This means that every private labor, every single type of labor, acts as a link in this universal human labor
only within the framework of the market and within the framework of commodity exchange. This is how the paradox in the market system follows, that the cost becomes higher than the product itself, and a game of numbers. The manufacturer already understands at the production level that he does not produce this product for himself, but in order to sell it on the market. He initially focuses on its value. And by the way, changes are taking place in society. Labor productivity is rising and falling. Production relations between people are changing, but for specific producers, this is perceived solely through the fluctuations of value of goods. That is, value is perceived as something independent of these very social relations. And this situation, when people in fact do not see their own movement and their own relations behind the movement of things and the relations of things, is called commodity fetishism by Marx. A commodity becomes something that seems to move of its own accord, exists independently of us, and enters into some kind of relationship with other commodities. And we don't notice that in fact, in this product, we see only a mirror in which we see ourselves and our own social relations. Marx notes how, according to the philosopher Feuerbach, religion arises when people express their own essence in gods, and these gods, which are a product of the human brain, are perceived by man himself as something independent of man and opposing him, even dominating him. These are product branding, packaging, suggestion through images, mad, and so on. That's the picture. Where millionaires and billionaires come from. At the same time, commodity fetishism is of global importance within the framework of capitalism. All phenomena of capitalism are subject to this fetishism. So for example, for such a thing as rent, a certain amount of money that is paid as rent, we notice that in reality there is a relationship between, for example, capitalists and landowners. Just as, for example, wages conceal and replace the actual fact of capitalists' exploitation of the working class. In a market economy, various machinations occur, for example, the surplus value taken away from the workers. The capitalist calculates all the accounting in advance, and workers most often receive about 1/8 of what they create. They work for themselves for 40 minutes, and the rest of the time they work for the capitalist. This is how millionaires and billionaires appear. But this in turn means that this section on commodity fetishism, in which Marx actually reveals the secret of what generally happens in the text of Capital, that the value of goods is measured by the labor expended on their production.
Closing. Decision. This illusion will persist as long as the capitalist economy itself exists, or it will disappear only with the disappearance of this very capitalist economy. And only then, as Marx puts it, when the union of free people finally socializes the means of production and consciously and systematically uses its own productive forces. In other words, only when humanity ceases to be slaves of social relations but becomes their masters, only then will this transparent appearance of commodity fetishism finally always dissipate. The struggle against capitalism is also a struggle against commodity fetishism. Once this struggle is overcome, there will never be any more goods.